In Iceland, due to the ongoing volcanic unrest, I am concerned that the nation is not ready for the next potential eruption and maybe the activity likely in my opinion to follow during the next 100 to 500 years. Let me explain why. On Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula and just offshore of it, there are 5 active volcanoes which seem to share a sort of link. Generally speaking, these volcanoes erupt in isolation for the vast majority of their lifespans, with one eruption occurring on average every 480 years. Yet, every 700 to 15,000 years, something changes across 2 or more of these volcanoes, causing eruptions to drastically increase in frequency to about once every 20 years. In other words, an increased eruptive rate of 2100%. These are what I am calling an eruptive period, which seem to last between 100 and 500 years in length. Although we are not exactly sure why this occurs, we know that a notable example of an eruptive period occurred between the years 900 and 1341, right around the time the Vikings settled the country. During this period of early Iceland history, 22 volcanic eruptions occurred on the Reykjanes Peninsula. For comparison, 23 volcanic eruptions occurred outside of this 441-year-long eruptive period on the peninsula between 9650 BCE and the year 2000. During the prior eruptive period, there were even 2 36-month stretches where 3 separate volcanic eruptions occurred in rapid succession. If this sounds eerily familiar to you, do not worry, you are not going crazy. As, at the beginning of 2020, the Reykjanes Peninsula entered a new eruptive period, and this period continues to the present and is likely, in my opinion, to continue for the next few centuries. Thus, between January of 2020 and November of 2023, 4 volcanoes have displayed signs of unrest via earthquake storms or changes to geothermal features right next to each other, and have altogether produced 10 intrusions of magma that reach shallow or moderate depths in the crust, resulting in 3 separate volcanic eruptions. During the prior 441-year-long eruptive period, which ended in the 14th century, 13.7% of the peninsula was coated in a fresh layer of lava, altogether stretching across an area of approximately 239.6 square kilometers. Based on the geologic history of this peninsula, this new ongoing eruptive period could hypothetically cover a similar extent of the Reykjanes Peninsula in a fresh layer of lava by the year 2520. As a result, as an expert who discusses volcanoes and volcanic hazards, I feel obligated to let people know some uncomfortable truths. What if I were to tell you that Greenavik, aka the town still under a complete evacuation order due to a shallow dike of magma that intruded underneath the town on November 10, 2023, was not the highest risk population center for volcanic hazards on the Reykjanes Peninsula? As, well, what is now the modern town of Greenavik has been partially covered by lava flows 3 times during the last 15,000 years, a town to the northeast known as Hafnarfjörður, which has an even larger population, has been partially covered by lava a whopping 6 times during the same period. There are also 4 other population centers which, had they existed when these eruptions occurred, would have each been inundated or nearly inundated with a single lava flow during the last 15,000 years. One of these areas is the capital city Reykjavik, where a low-lying area was inundated with a particularly long-lived lava flow around 2700 BCE. My point is that many areas that some people think are completely safe from eruptive hazards are not now in the long term because the Reykjanes Peninsula is undergoing a likely to be several century-long eruptive period. Luckily, there are several methods which can be utilized to divert lava flows at the present. One of these methods is via building numerous lava barriers, aka a tall wall of dirt and rocks which will attempt to direct lava away from a vital area such as a town. While one is actively being constructed around the Svartsengi geothermal power plant, I have a criticism. As these walls can take in excess of 30 days to build, and yet the time between the first detected signs of magma rising and subsequently reaching the surface and erupting can be as little as 120 hours. My point being that if the Reykjanes volcano had erupted on November 10th or 11th, as it really was super close to doing so, the odds are that the geothermal power plant would have been damaged. Thus, I recommend that we build these dirt walls even if they are not always effective before we detect the first sign of a magmatic intrusion. I am advocating for a proactive rather than reactive approach. This will of course require some sort of revenue source, but Iceland just implemented such a source, placing a yearly tax equivalent to 0.08% of the fire insurance value of a property. I have outlined several areas which I deem crucial to protect and an estimated amount of revenue required to build all of these structures. As you can see, the most expensive option, assuming each wall was built to a height of 10 meters, would cost around $328.1 million US. However, across the next 500 years, the damage eruptions are likely to generate, in my opinion, are likely to exceed this figure if we do nothing. I also advocate for placing heavy equipment and water hoses with a large supply of water in key areas so that if an eruption does occur rather quickly, that crucial machinery will already be in place. I have linked 2 websites in this video's description which provide information on the age of specific lava flow units so you can see if lava has geologically recently flowed into the area where you currently live in Iceland. As a final note, I would like to thank this channel's patrons on Patreon and channel members on YouTube.